What's your worst, "it's not what it looks like" moment? In middle school I had a puppy romance with this boy. He was a bigger boy and I was pretty tiny. Every time he ate he would unbuckle his pants to make room for this fucking huge-ass meal his mom would make him. One day I was really cold in the cafeteria and he gave me his jacket. When I was done I put it on his lap. I was doing my science homework for my next class, rushing to get it done before lunch was over. I dropped my pencil and had to go under the table to get it. The lunch lady saw the jacket on his lap, me coming up from under the table, and when asked to stand up his pants unbuckled. I never even kissed a boy, let alone do what she was implying. I got detention. My mom believed nothing happened, but his ass got whopped when he got home. High school, we had just gone over the disease sections in biology and had covered cancer and how to do self-checks fit. Our teacher mentioned that it was unlikely any of us had anything, but it was possible, so maybe every couple of months, do a check. I was preparing for school one morning and did a morning scratch and felt a bump. Went, I wonder what it is, and then, as your brain tends to do, goes to the worst possible conclusion. I strip pull it out and hold it to examine myself and see what it is. My mother then barges in to tell me to get to school. Finds me hand around my junk, in front of a mirror and looking at myself. She thought I was jerking it to my own reflection. Turns out the bump was just an ingrown hair. You guys remembered when those gay porn memes were trending? For those who don't know, it was basically a screenshot of gay porn, with the NSFW part cropped and some casual caption. So yeah, I googled gay porn in images for meme templates. See, I usually go on incognito to search for porn, but this time I was so casual about it, so innocently making a meme, that I forgot to go incognito. A few days later, my girl jokingly asked to see my browsing history, and I proudly let her, knowing full well I use incognito to beat my meat. Guess what the only incriminating thing on my history was? Well, yeah. One time my friend and I were watching Criminal Minds in the hall lounge of our dorm. We get distracted and aren't really paying attention. Our neighbors come by and are like, what are you guys watching here? There was like a guy tied to a bed with a girl who kidnapped him on top of him or something. I think she pulled out a knife or something and the scene moved on, but it was a really awkward moment that made it look like we were watching porn in public for a minute there. This happened with the Breaking Bad. My dad's friend was staying for the week, and was sleeping on the couch to visit. I'm sitting in my room watching the Breaking Bad, my door was open and the kitchen leads into my room. The NSFW scene between Skyler and Walter comes on as soon as he's walking past my door, and I had the volume up and wasn't expecting it to come on, as it was a very random scene. Anyways, he hears the thrusting and typical NSFW noises, and loudly asks, "Are you watching porn in there?" and walks in during the NSFW scene. I had to rewind the episode to right before the scene started and exited out to prove it was just a TV show, but my dad didn't hear anything. Close call. Also, my dad's friend is a cool guy. I doubt he said that to get me in trouble, because he was very joking and light-hearted about it, but that he was rather shocked at what he thought I was doing. I'm a big ol' anime nerd and I was trying to get my little sister into a few shows. She actually got interested in one series and we would watch it together. We were watching the last episode of the series, in which a dragon turns back into a woman. It's sort of magical girl transformation-esque. You know, brightly lit background, character in silhouette as they transform. Super tame, but you can clearly see the outline of the breasts. My mum sees this and freaks out that I'm showing my little sis prawn. No amount of explaining would convince her otherwise. As a broke college kid, one of my go-to meals was a 69-cent chili dog from 7-Eleven, which was 4 blocks from my dorm. I had no car. One winter's night, I bundled up in my heavy coat, gloves, and beanie and went to get myself one. So I'm heading back, holding my foil-wrapped dinner, and decide to run to get out of the cold faster. Next thing I know, a cop car screeches to a halt in front of me, and I'm ordered to the ground. Spent the next couple minutes explaining to NJPD why I'm running out of a convenience store at night, in a ski mask, waving a shiny metal object. Not really a "not what it looks like" moment. But I recently was staying with my sister. I'm playing video games in my room and my nephew comes in. I was playing Battlefield V and my sister doesn't like him watching violent video games. He asks if he can watch. I tell him okay, but not to tell you his mom or we'd get in trouble. After a while I turn it off and we both get downstairs for dinner. We're all at the dinner table, and my nephew starts asking my question about the game. I try to gesture to him to be quiet but my sister notices. She asks, "What are you guys talking about?" I'm silent for a couple seconds, then my nephew chimes in. Me and Uncle Dave were playing a game upstairs but he says I can't tell you about it or he'll get in trouble. I was in my room at 8 a.m. and I didn't have a shirt or pants on because it was hot in my room, so I was just chilling on my bed in my underwear. A little while after that I went to the bathroom to get some lotion because my hands were dry, so I branched the bottle back into my room and set it on my bed and laid back in my bed, then went on my phone and started watching a YouTube video. A little while after this, my sister walked into my room, saw that I was in my underwear, had lotion right next to me, and saw I was watching something on my phone and immediately walked out and closed the door. She then texted me saying she was sorry and would knock on my door next time I was doing what guys do. I was so freaking embarrassed because anyone would have thought the same as her, and it was the most awkward day I've ever experienced in my life. When I was 11, I got third-degree burns on my legs. Part of the recovery is wearing these tight garments that are basically like bike short, yoga pants tight, except tighter. I wore them the 24th of July 365 for 4 years. You can imagine how itchy these become. And how much grossness, alert, dead skin, scar accumulates. Anyway, it embarrassed me, and I wasn't supposed to scratch them, but they itched so badly that I had to scratch. So I was in the Boy Scouts in my tent and I couldn't take it, but I wasn't supposed to scratch. So I pulled my pants and the garment down and went into my sleeping bag in my tent, and I scratched the living crap out of my legs. I mean, yes, to the point they bleed, because you have no idea how bad it is. Anyway, I think other scouts peeked their heads in to get me to come out and do something, and all they see is a kid sitting up inside a sleeping bag vigorously and rapidly doing some very repetitive action with both hands. My burns are on my inner thighs, and saying, "Ugh, yeah." I never even thought about what they may be thinking. And honestly, scratching those scars was better than what they thought I was doing. When I was in my early 20s, I was partying at UCSB. I was on my game playing beer pong, and after being 5 games in, some girls I didn't know started being really catty and heckling me. I didn't want to deal with the drama and decided to make my way back to the friend's place I was staying with. I got mixed up and was sloppily wandering the streets when a cop saw me and stopped me. He immediately assumed I was underage, which I was not. I had my ID in my purse and he asked if he could take my purse and search it. I knew I had nothing of interest, so I handed it over. As he rummaged, I said, "See, I told you I'm legal." Instead of responding, he radios, "I need backup, we have a drug bust." At this point, all of the alcohol I had consumed hit me hard, and I was so confused. I asked him what the heck he was talking about, and he told me he found my coke stash. I knew I didn't do coke or have coke. He shows me the wax paper packets filled with white powder that he found in the pocket of my purse. What he didn't realize was that it was Goody's powder, an old headache remedy you can get at the pharmacy. By then about 6 other cops had shown up, and I was cuffed, booked, and taken to jail. They kept me overnight and finally released me at 10 a.m. the next morning. They tested it and confirmed it was aspirin, not cocaine. Of course they still charged me with a drunk in public, so I had to go back to Santa Barbara the next month to go to court. The night prior to court, I was out with the same friend, only not drinking. I was walking home with my friend who had an open container. Sure enough, a cop sees him and comes over to issue a citation. Guess who it was? The same cop that stopped me that night. He remembered me and said, "It's you. I can't believe you were telling the truth," to which I replied, "I told you I didn't do drugs. I'm actually in town for my court date. See ya tomorrow, butthole." When I was in my teens, I used to bike ride a lot. I would ride with two best friends, and we would ride for miles. So I met this girl and we hit it off very well. She only came into town to visit her mom and stepdad every few months, but we became great friends. No, didn't do anything, just felt comfortable around each other. I knew her mom and her stepdad since they lived up to the street a 1/4 mile. So she asked to go for a ride and talk when her parents left the house. We got about a mile away and a very quick downpour soaked us both to the bone, and we ended up turning around cause the brakes don't work wet on 10 speeds. We get to her house and no one is home, so she throws her clothes in the dryer and changing into something else and comes back up from her bedroom in the basement. I'm in the bathroom and I remove my clothes and she puts them in the dryer, also thinking it will take about 1/2 hour to dry. In the meantime, she gives me a pair of pink spandex shorts to wear while everything is tumbling in the dryer. I was embarrassed, but it was that or really girly things to wear. So we sit on the couch to watch a movie. We completely forget the time as we are engrossed in the movie, and about 7 p.m. her mom and stepdad walk in with her in her clothes and me just in the pink spandex. To this day the stepdad brings that story up to me when we meet. I seen him Saturday at a Goodwill store and he told his friend it. My roommate and I would play this game called Rodeo in college. We would barge into one of our friends' dorm rooms, wrestle them to the ground, hogtie them, and then jump around shooting finger guns and yelling "Yeehaw!" One day we did this to a friend who only had his underwear on. We had just finished tying him up when the RA walked in. He was dumbfounded at what he was seeing and just immediately walked back out without saying a word. I always wonder what he thought we were doing. If you liked this, please like and/or subscribe, and if you think it's worth it, please share.